Rams squad show is back. Another post-game edition, another loss. I'm Gavin Carlson, and I'm having a very bad day.
What it do, squad? It's your boy Brock, and this seems like the higher the rise, the harder the fall.
And I'm Doug McKain, and hey, the special teams was better.
Whose house? Rams house. It's the Rams squad. Everything Los Angeles Rams every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the City of Angels. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Here comes the Rampede. The Rams squad show starts now.
Yes, it does. What is going on, Ramley? Welcome back to the latest edition. Whose house? Rams house. Whose squad? The Ram Squad Show, the Mob Squad, the latest edition of the Ram Squad Show, another live post-game edition coming at you live on the Locked On Rams YouTube channel and after the fact, both on the channel and wherever you get the Locked On Rams audio podcast feed, all a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network where it's your team every day. Before we jump into this one, quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. I'll get into why today's day sucks for me in addition to this awful, awful Rams
I'll
loss.
cut you off right there. No one cares about your fantasy team. No one watching cares about your fantasy team. Brock probably doesn't care about your fantasy team. I know I don't care about your fantasy team. And look, that goes for me, a fantasy junkie who just explain to you my fantasy woes, but no one cares about your fantasy team. But you know what? For you, Gavin, we love you so much. We'll let you talk about it, though. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like if the Rams aren't the worst, if the Rams just win this game, it's okay. Like, real football matters a lot more than fake football. But now it's just like Marvin's Room is playing, and it's just like it's bad vibes.
Rose.
Yeah, it's really bad vibes. Big Brock doesn't give a dang about fantasy football as a former player, but like all of us, he gives a dang about the Rams. And the Rams, well, they looked awful until about the last half of a quarter in this game, and they fall. A shocking loss, 2 in a row. You already blow the 1 seed, you already blow the division, but now you blow the chance to at least play the Carolina Panthers or Tampa Bay Falcons. Look at me. Tampa Bay Falcons, guys. Brock, we suck. What are your thoughts?
What the heck?
Right. It's hard to overcome 3 turnovers. I mean, defense is on the field. I mean, Bijan Robinson looked like prime Barry Sanders today, or Reggie Bush at USC. Just his contact balance, just he was bouncing off of tackles. Our guys were there, and he just made them miss and continue to get extra yardage. And when he's on fire like that, I mean, I'm looking at it: 22 carries for 195 yards, almost 200. On the defense that is supposed to shut down prime time running backs and things like that, and he gets 195 in a tub. It's like, what are we doing? I know from experience, like as a player, like we're not going out there to lose. It's just like, where's our head at? Like, I would love to be inside the building, because at this point, you would think that a team of this nature that has the experience that it has understands the situation that they're going into. Now we have to possibly play in Philly again, or going to Chicago in the cold. It's not our forte. We don't play well in the cold. It's almost like, what are we doing? So that's kind of where I'm at with the situation, because I am a player, and I did play, and I understand like the season and how long it is, and it's it's a grind. But for me right now, I just want to know where the players are right now. Did we hit the wall? Like we talk about that rookie wall, or that that invisible wall you hit in the season. It's, week 17, almost 18. Everybody has a lot of football on them. I just want to know, like, are we tired? Do we need to get our legs up under us? I'm just hoping that, once we get Devontae and a lot of, guys that are out, we look a lot different. But as of right now, I just don't feel confident going into the playoffs with this type of team.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's plenty of things you can start with. I think for me, it's pretty simple. The offensive line, you're missing two guys, and the offensive line was atrocious. Did Matthew Stafford throw a couple really questionable throws that, turn into interceptions? Yes, but we had no run game the entire game until the end when the Falcons are playing soft defense and giving up runs, giving up checkdowns. Aller Jackson might just secretly be the MVP of the Rams this season, because the second he leaves, the offensive line crumbles. Obviously, no Dotson as well. So the offensive line was terrible. And if the Falcons' offensive line got somewhat of a push, enough of a push for Bijan to run all over us, but I just feel like it's offensive line 99% of the problem. Like, yes, the defense should not be giving up 27 points to the Atlanta Falcons when Drake London has 1 catch for 4 yards, when Kyle Pitts has 2 catches for 16 yards. I don't know about you, D-Mac, but the Falcons looked like the second they got the lead, they were content to hand the ball off to Bijan, whether it's for 1 yard, 10 yards, and lucky for them, it was never 1 yard. It was always 10. It was always 15. It was always 30. But even if it was 1 yard, the Falcons looked like they had no interest in pushing the ball down the field, in taking any sort of risks. And the same way it's inexplicable for this defense to give up check down after check down to Mac Jones a couple weeks ago, and it's inexplicable to let the run game do what it did today for the Falcons, knowing their pass game is absolutely non-existent. Bigger disappointment, D-Mac, the offensive line and the offense, the turnovers, or the defense giving up 27?
Man, I think you could roll those all into one. I think, though, that the defense is more disappointing to me, to answer your question, because as Brock pointed out, I mean, Bijan Robinson, I go out of my way to watch that man play the game of football, whether it's live, whether it's on the condensed games after, whether it's on YouTube highlights. I mean, Troy Aikman said the game, he could be the best player in football, and he's probably not that far off. How fluid he is, the way it feels like you have him wrapped up and he just accelerates just the perfect amount to break tackles. And my 3 big keys for this game were limit the explosive runs for Bijan Robinson. I think that a guy like that, you can live with even 150 yards on the ground if it's spread out, right? But a 93-yard run, that's an explosive run that breaks your back. And then the second big key, can you get to Kirk Cousins? And yes, you had a couple hits on him. Yes, he does get the ball out very quick when he faces pressure. 0 sacks on Kirk Cousins. And the third one was Matthew Stafford to win the MVP. Need to have a signature performance on Monday Night Football, with Drake May having the 5 touchdowns, with the Patriots locking up that division, and the Rams, they're not able to win the NFC West. So he need to have a monster night. And how did he respond? 3 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6, and it wasn't even the interceptions that killed me tonight. It was missing Xavier Smith at the end of the game on a play that at the very least puts you in a position to tie it, but just rewinding it, I think he scores on that play. And I think that's an MVP moment for Matthew Stafford. And that would have really put a lot of the pain and the frustrations that we've all talked about over this last 10-day stretch, where the Rams have gone from the team that still, by FanDuel, believe it or not, they're still the Super Bowl favorite right now, at least. That probably changes tomorrow morning. But the team that had the NFC 1 seed right in front of them, they were the favorite, the MVP for Stafford. And then on top of everything else, the pick that they got from the Falcons in the trade in last draft, that falls out of the top 10. So it just, things continue to pile up. And I think that Brock said it best, they're just a feeling with this team right now. I mean, to come out after Kobe Turner said in the locker room, hey, Kobe Turner comes out, and what does he say? He goes, we're going to come out swinging, right? You lose, you're down 21-0. Yes, it was a valiant comeback. Great job by Jared Verse to block that kick, throw up the deuces on the way into the end zone. I was feeling that. That got me hyped. And yes, you saw some big plays at the end, but let's just call it what it is. Yes, this is an improved Falcons team, but this Rams team should have came out angry that first half, and that's where this game was lost. And it was a great effort to come back, but this team had no business trailing this Falcons team 21-0 on Monday Night Football. It was very frustrating to watch. And this team needs to find a spark, and they need to dig deep, and they do some soul searching right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and in the first quarter, it felt like it was a couple plays, right? Like football is a game of a couple plays, right? ESPN actually did a pretty solid job summing it up, right? You have I think it was the Konate Mumfield catch, might have been Xavier Smith on the slant on the first drive where it's overturned. He's short by half a yard. You have to punt. Obviously, the Falcons go score. The next possession, you march all the way down. You have a 4th and 1. It's not the first time this season where we've seen a 4th and 1 run right up the middle to Kyron Williams when everyone on planet Earth is expecting it. He gets stuffed in the backfield. Maybe when you have your full, healthy 5 offensive linemen, you feel confident you can have the push to get a yard. But with the way the offensive line was looking all night, a run right up the middle gets blown up. That's how it ends. But as frustrating as it is, we're talking about half a yard costing you the first drive. We're talking about a 4th and 1 inside the 30 costing you the second drive. Like at first it felt close, but then from there, what was disappointing is the Rams offense didn't turn it on in the second half of the first quarter or in the second quarter, as you would expect an elite team to do. We've got McVay in the pregame quote saying, we don't care where we're going to have to play in the playoffs. This team can travel. We can run the ball. We can throw the ball. We can travel. Well, you can't even go into a dome in Atlanta with a crowd that, sure, it was kind of lively, but they're just there for fun. Like this team's not even playing for anything. And you look completely frazzled. It was extremely disappointing. And again, the offensive line is arguably the most important thing in football outside of the quarterback, and the offensive line was atrocious. But someone said in the chat, and rightfully so, why is there no help for the backup left tackle once you see he's getting absolutely blown up? Why are there still runs up the middle behind the right guard who's getting absolutely shoved around all game? Every single person on this team, the coaching, they all deserve some blame outside for, Jared Verse blocking a field goal and running it back. I mean, nobody played well today. Nobody. Brock, can you name like 3 guys that played well today?
Man, I couldn't find it. I mean, when you're playing from behind, especially, I just think we forced the ball. I seen it in Matthew Stafford's kind of like demeanor once we got down 14-0, like he was forcing the ball, and then we were throwing the ball 3 times. So it was just. It was a lot from the beginning. I honestly hate to say this, but I think Atlanta just came out and they were the hungrier team. Maybe nothing to lose, nothing to play for. You got this team, on the ropes. You're trying to build confidence in your team moving into next year. I just felt like they were the hungrier team. You could just tell by the play. You could just tell by the way they went out there and executed. Not saying that the Rams weren't prepared. I think they were prepared, but I just think, the hungrier dog won today, and that was Atlanta, starting off high, getting things going. I'm watching, I watch the defensive line. I'm watching a couple of guys get out their gap, things like that. Some things that we usually don't do. So seeing that, I could tell, like, they were just moving at a slightly upbeat, more, upper beat or upper pace than us throughout the first half of that game before, you get the block kick and we get it returned. But other than that, I'm gonna be honest with you, Atlanta just looked like the hungrier team.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I mean, just coming out with a style where it feels like, because they're the Rams, because they're the Falcons, because it feels like the script writers or the Rams a winner, something like that they were just entitled to this victory. There's no such thing in the NFL. And if you've been watching or paying any attention to the Falcons, they have been playing better football of late, and they had nothing to lose. This was their Super Bowl. This was the last game they're really going to be relevant at all season. So, of course, they were going to give the Rams their best shot. And look, I think that this is a team that should have come out with an extra spark because of 4 guys that were not active today, right? Kevin Dotson, Alaric Jackson, Quentin Lake, Devontae Adams. All 4 of those guys make this Rams team a totally different team. And knowing those guys are out, that you have to be at your best with what you have. And look, you didn't have the ability to play overconfident. That just was not going to win you the football game tonight, and we saw that. And as far as DJ Humphries go, to Gavin, to kind of get back to that, what you were saying is, look, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he was atrocious. I mean, he just was not protecting Matthew Stafford, and it wiped out a couple of massive plays. It's just some big whiffs on pressure, and then he missed a block that led to a turnover on downs. Look, I mean, he was very, very bad. There's no doubt about it. As far as chips and things like that, look, I mean, at some point, these guys, you have to find a way to see if they're going to go out there and execute. And yeah, sometimes it's blind faith by McVay, and he will do that. He will trust guys to go out there and make plays and try to step up. Unfortunately, tonight was just not the night. And I think too, when you just kind of look at the entire really sees on both sides of the football, McVay said after the game that these guys are going to play in week 18. And yes, if the Seahawks lose the 49ers and the Rams beat the Cardinals, they'll finish with that 5 seed. So, hey, even if they went 2-0 and they beat the Falcons and the Seahawks, they lose and the Rams take care of business, they'll be in the same place that they were. But this team needs to continue playing, not for any seeding. They need to find something. They need to find something.
Right.
They need to find some form of rhythm. Doesn't matter if you're playing Philly on the road, the Bears on the road, Panthers on the road, or the Bucks on the road. The type of football they play tonight is going to lose against any team in the NFL if you play like the way you did in the first half.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to hear your both your opinions on playing next week. There are even some people questioning the decision to play this week. Boy, how interesting that conversation is when you play your people, you see a couple guys actually get hurt and you lose the game. So it's the worst case scenario, unfortunately. But we'll talk about all that after our break here. We'll be right back on the Locked On Rams Squad Show. Today's show brought to you once again by PrizePicks. Now, look, whether you're starting a new routine or jumping in to player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge. But with PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build your lineups based on player projections, no drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. It's quick and simple. You just download the app. It takes 60 seconds to make a lineup. Their new early payouts feature is a game changer. If a player starts hot, you can cash out before the game ends. I love the flexibility with options like Flex Play, where you can still get paid even if one pick misses. And it just makes watching games more exciting. In week 18, a majority of the games don't mean anything. So make those games more exciting with PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. And today's show, a new sponsor, at least I haven't talked about it yet. It's Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. It's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save me hours every week. And knowing you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you real peace of mind. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. Back here live, Locked On Rams Squad Show with the Mob Squad, Big Brock and D Mac. We already broke down a little bit what went wrong in this one. Obviously, anytime you fall behind by multiple touchdowns, not good. Anytime the offensive line looks as bad as it did tonight, not good. But the Rams did show some life. Let's not forget that even despite the lack of an offensive line, even despite Puka Nacua having his quietest game maybe of the season, it was a big throw to Terrence Ferguson, 37 yards in the corner of the end zone. Huge chunk play got you back in this. Then, obviously, when you could go down 17 points, and that would have been all she wrote, a blocked field goal run all the way back, make it a 7-point game, then you still have to go march down the field and tie the game. You have a huge Puka Nacua catch that's wiped off. He's able to get a few plays later into the end zone. So I know you guys were saying, well, this team needs to play next week in order to get some confidence back, get back into the groove of things. But Just curious your thoughts on how maybe the third and fourth quarter and that comeback that obviously fell short. Big Brock, we'll start with you. Do you think that'll at least help this team maybe play better in week 18 and obviously what matters in the playoffs?
I think the fact that we're playing the Cardinals is a good deal. We're thankful that we're playing Arizona in that game. But for me, it's all about, getting in that rhythm, going into the playoffs, ready to roll. I'm hoping that the experience of this team starts to click because they all know what it feels like to be in the playoffs. And during the season, obviously, those are important games to get you into the tournament. But when it comes to the playoffs, it's just a different type of atmosphere. It's just a different type of vibe. Everybody understands it's do or die. Everybody understands it's win or go home. And you get that type of play. So hopefully, this team, I'm expecting this team to understand, what it takes to really get there because they've done it before. Matthew Stafford has done it before, having to take the long road home. So for me, the organization, Sean McVay, they've been here before where they had to go away and get to a Super Bowl. So if that's the road that they rather take is the hard road and win it the hard way, I guess it would be this organization to get it done because we know that they got it done before.
Yeah, I'm with that too. I mean, I think that's the one saving grace for me. I mean, I still have a lot of confidence in this team. I'll be honest. It's not the hopium. It's not being delusional. I just think this is a very different team when fully healthy. And guys like Quinn Lake, I mentioned in the first half, Quinn Lake, Devonta Adams, watching him do sprints before the game, looks like he is going to be ready to go. And Kevin Dotson has been kind of like the Puna forward on the offensive line, just kind of the unsung hero of that unit. And Alec Jackson playing the one of the most important positions in all sports, the left tackle, protecting the blind side. I think that all of those things, and like you point out, Brock, I mean, this LA, sometimes they choose the hardest path to get to where they need to get to. And look, I mean, this team has had a lot of bad luck. I mean, that was a PI against the Tutu Atwell. It just was. I mean, and that should have set up a game time field goal. There's no doubt about that. That was a missed call. I'm not a blame the refs guy. I'm really not. And I think that the Rams had no business competing with a Falcons team this late. So there's that. But still, what I'm getting to is they need a break. And that break is the Seahawks beating the 49ers. And if that happens, and then all of a sudden you maybe throw a 40-piece or a 30-piece, or you just feel a lot better about winning against the Cardinals, hey, it's the Bucs and the Panthers, right? Either the Panthers are going to beat the Rams twice in one season. I'll believe it when I see it. Not saying it's impossible because the NFL, those guys have dudes too. I'll take that fight. The Bucs, I'll take that fight too. And then once you win a playoff game, Brock, more than anyone on this show, of course, and the most people in the world, just things start to click and you start to roll and you're in the tournament and you've got some momentum and you got rhythm, and all of a sudden you take a blink of an eye and then, hey, no one wants to play the Rams. So I still feel like there's optimism there. But just a couple of things. I mean, like for example, tonight, why was Mumfield in that spot over Xavier Smith? I mean, I think that Xavier Smith at the end of the game, that could have been a miscommunication. Stafford throws the ball towards the sideline. He made a bad judgment. I'm interested to see what both of them said about that after the game. But I like X, man. I think Xavier Smith should have got a little more love. We did see Terrence Ferguson make a big play. We did see Puka Nacua do Puka Nacua things. I mean, that catch I thought was a catch. It clearly wasn't, but that would have been one of the catches of the season. So it's just that first quarter, man. If this team comes out not looking uninterested, I think they find a way to win this football game. And even if they did, you'd still be in the same position as, hey, we'd be talking about the 5th seed or the 6th seed. I will say that there's a part of me that, yes, it would just be making the best out of it after the fact. But for the Rams, who look uninterested at times and are having issues finishing games that they should win, maybe the best thing for the Rams would be to play the Philadelphia Eagles as their first opponent in the playoffs. I mean, there's a quote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek," right? Let's go to that cave with the Eagles, maybe, knock them off, and then just imagine that, slaying the dragon right out of the gates, and then, hey, I have no doubts after that. I don't care who they're playing, they're going to the Super Bowl if you beat the Eagles. So there's a part of me that says just, hey, at this point, 1 seed's out of the picture. Let's just get it on and get it over with and beat the Eagles on the road.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, nothing would kickstart a playoff run like that. Like, absolutely. My question, and it's interesting, I think you guys are right in the sense that it'll be a valid debate. And what's interesting about the NFL schedule in Week 18 is you can make the argument the Rams got a little bit of a gift because there was easily a scenario where the NFL would have picked the Seahawks Niners game to be the Sunday night football game. And if that was the case, then the Rams would have to, at 10 a.m. on Sunday, absolutely play their guys, try to win, and then see what would happen Sunday night. Fortunately for the Rams, depending on how people look at it, I know no matter what I say here, there's going to be people angry in the comments, but we got lucky in that game. The NFL or NBC, I guess, chooses to have Ravens Steelers on Sunday night. And so the Seahawks Niners game will be on Saturday night. And why obviously that's significant is if the game does not go the way we want, then it creates an opportunity where the Rams are playing for nothing and can then potentially rest their guys. But based on what you guys are saying, I totally agree. And kind of based on the quotes I'm reading right now from Sean McVay, it sounds like it's not even about the seeding. It's we need to play a full 40, 60-minute game where we look like a competent football team. He says this is a humbling league and we got humbled tonight. We need to play. We need better football. That was one of the quotes. I didn't think we played bad against Seattle tonight. We didn't play very well. I mean, yeah, no duh. A lot of people also questioning, I'm curious your thoughts. Why no timeouts until basically all the time? I get it. I want to say it was a 3rd and 1 that the Falcons converted, but either way, you call timeout, that 3rd and 1 becomes a situation where if he gets it, obviously then the clock runs anyway, but if he doesn't get it, then maybe you now have saved, a minute and a half on the clock. Plenty of things that can be questioned, but I guess, yeah, we'll go back to this question here of if the game doesn't go the way we want it to on Saturday night, you come into Sunday with nothing to play for. Are you guys still on team? We need to play our guys. Or do you say if you're literally playing for nothing at that point, bench everybody?
I would say play your guy. I mean, what's funny? The way things line up with Kevin Dotson, Alec Jackson out, kind of in retrospect, I'm almost thinking like, hey, sit your guys in week 17 and play them in week 18. It's just kind of the way that things played out. Obviously, that's easier to say now. But look, this team needs to find some momentum. They need to find some juice. And they do have as you point out, Gavin, the luxury of knowing exactly what they're up against. But who knows? I mean, if it's already decided and there's nothing to play for, maybe you just see a first half of football and they come out and they go crazy and they win. They're up by 25. Maybe they just get one half of football. But I think it's all largely dependent on who's available. And the thing is, if guys are still going to be out, are you really going to see the version of the Rams as a team that you're going to see in the playoffs anyway? So at that point, does it really help you? Or do you just say, hey, we trust the veterans on this team. We probably need some additional rest. And the thing, too, is it's the Cardinals. It's the lowly Cardinals. I mean, how much are you going to benefit from that? But I think that with the 5th seed on the line, if it's still in play, it's 100% question. But if the 49ers were to win and the Rams have nothing to play for and they're locked into that 6th seed, I honestly would have no issue with them just sitting out because you lose Matthew Stafford, the season's over, right? You lose Jared Verse, the season, it takes a big hit. You lose Puka Nacua, the season's over. And those are guys that have gotten banged up. But I think certain young players on the defensive side of the football could see some time. But I would have no issue seeing Jimmy Garoppolo under center if the 49ers were to win on Saturday.
Yeah.
Big Brock, I'm curious about you as the former player, obviously. You agree or what?
Oh, I definitely agree because I feel like you need your guys when the time comes. When it counts, you want your best players on the field, and if you can get an extra week of rest going into the playoffs, knowing that fifth seed, 6th seed, it really doesn't matter. We're going away. We plan on playing some good ball when we get there. I say rest the starters. I say rest the guys. Maybe get a half of football, like you said, D-Mac, just to stay in rhythm. Just to execute some plays, knowing that, this is, maybe we show something that we, had early in the season. So just, so nobody gets a beat on us or something like that. But it's all about just staying in rhythm. But playing the guys in the second half, knowing, 5th seed, 6th seed, it really doesn't matter. let's get our guys some rest. Let's make sure when we hit the playoffs, we have a full healthy team, or healthy as possible, going into the playoffs, because we all know you need your guys when the time comes.
And Brock, what does that do
agree.
for the body? Just like physically, is it something that, well, let's say you get that rest in week 18, right? What does that do for the body in the first playoff game, in the first quarter and the fourth quarter? Is it extra explosion that first quarter, and then fourth quarter you kind of notice, hey, I still got a little bit more in the tank, and just physically, because that week off was so important? Does it really show? Do you really feel just how much?
I mean, I definitely felt it. I mean, when we played Dallas, we got the first round bye, and we got to play Dallas at home, and you got to just feel like, okay, we know who our opponent is. We don't have to get our bodies banged up, that first week of the playoffs. You get off your feet, do some things that help you recover. And then that playoff game, I was ready to play. So I would say, yeah, it does have a little bit, to do with it when you can get some recovery on your legs, on your body. And, I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but you definitely feel ready to go. And then, like I said earlier, man, when you're playing in the playoff, it's almost like the lights hit different. It's not the same in-season lights. Like they use a whole different type of LED bulb in the stadium, where it's like, dang, like I didn't realize it can get this bright, So, and with this team, having that experience, from last year, being this close from the Super Bowl, I hope that kicks in during this playoff run and, gets them over the hump.
That was such a big game, by the way. I remember that game. You had the classic uniforms on. Woo, that were so clean. First playoff win in like 14 years or something like that. Man, that was electric. I remember being at that game, man. Good times.
Oh, man, we need it. We need it again. We need it again. We're still trying to, it's been such a cruddy couple of weeks. Like everyone said, we had so much time between the Thursday night loss and this one. It's like you almost forgot about the pain a little bit of that one, and then now you're just reminded again. But hey, is there a scenario where you rest Matthew Stafford next week and he loses the MVP because of it? Sure. Did you already lose the number 1 seed because of last week? Sure. Did you already lose potentially playing a cupcake in the first round, or knock on wood, a cupcake in the first round because you lost tonight? Sure. But coming into the year, it was Super Bowl or bust. All three of us felt like this was a Super Bowl caliber team, and it's still all right there in front of you. And I totally agree with you guys. You cannot, as much as you want everyone to be clicking on all cylinders, the best way you click on all cylinders, if everyone's healthy, right? Like the only reason that not the only reason, but the main reason the Rams did not click on all cylinders tonight was not because they're dysfunctional all of a sudden. It's because you didn't have 2 offensive linemen. You didn't have Devontae Adams. Like Sean McVay said, you played a winning football game for 80% of the game last week against probably the number 1 seed in the NFC and arguably the new Super Bowl favorite in the Seahawks. Like when this Rams team is healthy, who cares about, where you play and who you're playing? The Rams at their best is still probably better than any team at their best. So let's get to our best. Let's be healthy and let's get this thing done. But enough of the sappy talk. We're going to take a break. We come back, still plenty more to talk about. I'm curious what the Mob Squad thinks is going to happen in that Seahawks-Niners game. What do we learn about kind of the rest of the NFC after a crazy weekend? And also still plenty more to talk about on this game. What will the offensive line look like next week in the playoffs? Devontae Adams, Blake Corum, some skill guys hurt as well. Q Lake, all that after our break here on the Locked On Rams Squad show. We'll be right back. Today's show, actually, I lied. We don't even have an ad, so we're coming right back. Gotta love that. Never mind. We're right here back on the Locked On Rams Squad show, the Mob Squad. Obviously, I just teased it, but we're already back. You guys watched that game last night. And if so, what were the big takeaways? Because I saw someone in the comments, and I apologize. I know I haven't been throwing them on the screen as much, but someone said, imagine this Rams defense against that Bears offense. Imagine this Rams defense against that Niners offense. My rebuttal is, imagine either of those defenses against ours. Like, that was just all offense from start to finish last night. Did we learn anything from those games and knowing how those went, how the Eagles game against the Bills went, where they looked terrible and still won the game? What's the confidence level? We'll start with you, D-Mac, of the Rams playing any combination of the Eagles, the Bears, the Seahawks and the Niners in the playoffs. How would you rank them, and what was your takeaway from the weekend?
Yeah, I would say that those teams are peaking at the right time. I mean, Brock Purdy absolutely in his bag lately, and Kyle Shanahan absolutely in his bag with play calling and scheming, and you can never count that 49ers team. I think the Eagles going into Buffalo the way that they did, not always winning pretty. It doesn't even look like they're having fun out there, but the defense is certainly dominant at times. A.J. Brown got involved early, didn't have that explosive moment from Barkley or Jalen Hurts, but they just win. Like, winners win. They find ways to finish games. They're kind of the opposite of the Rams sometimes in the fourth quarter, where they know how to manage clock, manage timeouts. Like you mentioned, Sean McVay, that was not a great job by the way he manages timeouts at the end of this game. And they're the defending champions for a reason. I think the Bears are a major wild card. I think that Caleb Williams makes some incredible plays at times. Then he missed the guy at the very end of the game, and they could have won it. And he's still a rookie, second-year guy that you're hoping, okay, you really have that moment. I think if I had to rank them, I still think that the Eagles and the Seahawks are two teams that I would rather play. I would rather avoid. And then I would go Seahawks. I think we're going to see the Seahawks again. It just, that matchup is too good to not have that again. But I would say the Seahawks, the Eagles, and then the 49ers, and then the Bears in that order. I think San Francisco, we saw it happen in 2021. I think the Rams find a way to win that game. I think that the Eagles and the Seahawks are very, very close. Very, very close. But all those teams are teams that the Rams, if they're healthy and they're not uninterested at the beginning of the game and they're completely executing on every single down, the Rams can beat every single one of those teams. Can they do on the road? Hey, Matthew Stafford needs to show something now, okay? Because he was great against the Seahawks. Falcons tonight, not his best game. And the good thing is all these guys, it's like that video game meme, you know, where you kind of like go forward. You know what I mean? When you're focusing, it's like the fourth quarter in Madden, right? Yeah. That's what the Rams do. Like, they really do that. And I hate that about them. I'd rather them just be locked in 24/7. But it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, they definitely collapsed. But, hey, the special teams was better tonight. And if they had fired Chase Blackburn earlier in the year, I think they're the 1 seed in the NFC. I think it's pretty clear to me. So knowing that and knowing they're going to get guys back, as you point out, I still think this Rams team has a really, really good chance to make a deep run. I'm not ready to sell. I would actually love to come on here and be the guy that says, you know what? I don't care that I host a Rams podcast. I just want to keep it 100, keep it real with the fans out there, and say that I don't believe in these guys. I'm done. I'm sick of it. And that. There's just something about this group at the talent level and how they look when they're at their best that leads me to believe that this team can still can climb out of this darkness. Because, hey, the truth is, you can make the claim that some of those other teams are peaking at the wrong time. You want to peak in 2 weeks, right? Not right now. So I like the fact that everyone's off the bandwagon a little bit. I like the fact that, hey, I'm still looking around at this bandwagon on this train. I'm still saying choo-choo, but there's not a lot of passengers on. But we're still on, I think, and I still think this team can make a run. I still like them against those teams.
Big Brock, how do you rank those four after what we saw this weekend and just in general, going into the last week of the season here?
With those teams, I definitely, and we talked about Carolina. I definitely feel like we would beat Carolina in the playoffs with the team that we have right now, just if we focus and we lock in. Obviously, we lost some early in the season a couple of weeks ago, but I still feel like we can beat that team if we focus. Man, you said it best. You know, Caleb Williams is such a wild card, and I just think if you can get the Philadelphia Eagles out the way, everybody else, if you have a healthy team, you're competing with everybody else. Obviously, the Seahawks and the 49ers are going to always be tough games because they're your divisional rivals. They see you twice a year. They're not scared of, they're not shocked by anything you do because they've seen you twice, in a year. So those games are going to always be tough. I never look to see those games. Especially last week where the game was high scoring, you don't really look to see that, especially with these two defenses who are top 20, top 10 defenses. So for me, it's definitely, if we can play Tampa Bay and play at Carolina and kind of take that road, I wouldn't mind that because obviously I feel like we have the upper hand on both of those teams, with a team that's not fully healthy. But a fully healthy Rams team, like you said, D-Mac, I feel like can go against anybody, and I feel like we can win with that, not having a bracket coverage over top of, Puka Nacua, and you got to actually worry about Devontae Adams and the run game. And, it's a lot different when you got all the dogs in the fight, So for me, it's definitely about being healthy. And once we're healthy, what do we look like when we're healthy?
Yeah. I mean, I think the irony of the thing of the situation is, like, if you look at the Eagles, you look at the Seahawks versus, I think the Bears and Niners are similar, right? Their offenses have these crazy high peaks. Their defenses are terrible. But like you all said, and I agree, and I'm actually, despite being a Bruin and despite obviously being a Rams fan, I do think Caleb Williams, I think he's next up. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's eventually going to get there, but you can't trust Caleb Williams in 2025 in the playoffs. Like, you can't do that. It's going to have to take a couple more years before you can trust him in the playoffs, right? I still feel that way about Sam Darnold. I know that he came back and made a couple throws against us, but let's not forget this guy threw 15 interceptions the first time we played him. Let's not forget how awful he looked in the playoffs last year when we played him. So as much as I think the Seahawks are the most complete team, I think they might have the worst quarterback of those four teams. So I'm not putting them at number one. I still have the Eagles at one. They're the defending champs. And like D-Mac said, they can play a game where their offense looks awful, does not complete a pass, and they beat the Bills in Buffalo. They can win a game where their defense does not perform well, but they do air it out to A.J. Brown. They can win a game where they don't air it out, but they hand it off to Saquon, and he looks like, oh, by the way, the only guy who looks just like Bijan, if not a little bit better than Bijan, is Saquon freaking Barkley, right? So as much as I hate those darn Eagles fans, I hate them. I think the Eagles are the team I'm the most afraid of in the playoffs. They're kind of like the Rams, where, like you said, D-Mac, they kind of fall asleep at times. But in the playoffs, the Eagles are going to turn it on the same way. I hope in the playoffs, the Rams are going to turn it on. They're the team I fear the most. Go ahead, D-Mac.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, honestly, for me, my brain just said Seahawks first, but I could have said Eagles first too, and I would have just been fine with that, because I think the difference, and now that you bring it up, between the Eagles and the Seahawks is, one, championship pedigree, I think, means something, but two, I trust Jalen Hurts to make less mistakes than Sam Darnold. I can see Gavin Carlson already tweeting out ghost emojis right now with Sam Darnold out there, because I know he couldn't wait to do that, probably, right? So I agree with you from that standpoint. I think, too, there's a lot of similarities between those teams when you kind of look at the offenses, and you give an elite receiver, explosive receiver, and a guy that can do some real damage on A.J. Brown. And, of course, it's always up and down. There's always some drama with him, but we know how talented he is. Devontae Smith can do things. And then Saquon Barkley hasn't really had that year, but he has that explosive potential. And look at Kenneth Walker. I mean, he had that big explosive run against the Rams. So, and Barner's starting to kind of find some creases. So, yeah, I mean, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, pretty much him and Puka. I think I'd take Puka over him at this point as far as their years. But still, I mean, 1,700-plus yards the year that he's had. So, yeah, there's those similarities, too. And look, Jalen Carter, we know how nasty he is and stuff like that. But, I mean, think about the similarities, too. Both are tough places to play, right? Seattle's tough with the 12. And then Philly, I've not checked the weather reports there, but I'm just thinking logically about this, hoping that the sooner you play them, maybe the lesser chance for snow. I don't know, but
right.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. But yeah, and Caleb Williams too. Like, man, I almost threw up in my mouth a little bit. Gavin, throwing some love, standing on Caleb Williams. And who knows? Here's the thing about Caleb Williams, man. Like, quarterbacks that have escapability like he does always scare me in the playoffs, because you never know when they're going to have that magical moment like he had against the Packers a couple of weeks ago. I'll never forget my favorite player growing up, of course, Michael Vick. When he went to Green Bay, he was just 22 when he went up there and beat the Packers in Lambeau Field. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is Michael Vick, absolutely not. But some players that are young, and you just never know when that game's going to come. We're like, holy crap, like, he's here, right? He's here, he's on the scene. And Caleb Williams has always he thinks he's that guy. And I think that's important to me, whether or not he is that guy. It's like when Muhammad Ali said, I was saying I was the greatest before I even knew I was, right? I feel like he's got a little bit of that in him too. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of good quarterbacks. And, man, Did you guys see Brock? How would you guys rate Brock Purdy doing the Euro step into the Dougie yesterday? Did you guys see that Selly going to the side? I don't know, Gavin.
Yeah, he tried it.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, he tried. Yeah, I mean, the only fans I hate more than Eagles fans or Niners fans. I live here in San Francisco now, and walking into work today and just how happy they were, and they're all doing the Dougie, and God forbid a white boy have motion is all I'm hearing every 24 seconds about Brock Purdy and the Dougie. It's been brutal, but
he did not hit that.
I don't think he did. I thought the this into this was kind of corny too. But hey, as much as we talked about the Eagles, Seahawks, and Bears there's arguably not a unit in the NFL playing better than the Niners offense right now. Like, yes, they had the pick six to start the game, and yes, they actually finally had a punt, which they hadn't had in weeks. But like all this talk about complete teams and needing a defense, like the Niners had no defense yet last night, and they still won the game, right? Like, there's something to be said about having the best unit on the field. And while I think the Rams offense at its best is probably as good, if not better than the Niners offense right now, there's been some cracks in us, right? Their offensive line is already beat up. They had no Trent Williams the entire game last night and did what they did. So I think I have Eagles 1. I think I have Niners 2, though. Despite their defense being the worst unit of the four teams, their offense is the best. And the same way a mobile quarterback, like you said, D-Mac, can scare you at all times. You never know when they're going to have their magical moment. There's nothing more scary than an offense that you just, no matter how much pressure Jared Verse gets, no matter how much Poona Ford maybe clogs up the middle, like the Niners offense right now is playing as well as anybody. And I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but I think that's why they're the second scariest team in my opinion. But it's going to be interesting. And the moral of the story is we still have way too much to figure out before we even know who we're playing and when we're playing them and where we're playing them and if it's going to snow in Philly or if it's going to rain. And right, like but it's fun. It's fun to figure it out. We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we'll talk Rams a little bit more, personally. We obviously talked about the rest of the NFC, but we'll talk about the Rams, what we want to see from them in week 18, what the key is going to be once that playoff run begins. We'll do all that after our last break here on the Locked On Rams Squad Show. And again, no ad, so we'll be right back. And we are back. Locked On Rams Squad Show with the Mob Squad. Big Brock, I'm just curious, like in your career, a majority of it being 17-week seasons, this extra game, I'm curious what your thoughts are on it, because we talked about how you feel after maybe resting for a week and all of that. Do you think this extra week, is it harder for a team that played as well as the Rams did at the beginning of the year and were as healthy as the Rams were for a majority of the season, that extra week, another week to get hurt, another week to, maybe cool off a little bit? Like, are the Rams feeling some of the, repercussions of having an extra week? Does it play a role, or is it what it is?
Obviously it is what it is. Everybody has to play the extra week, so you can't complain. But as a player that has played in a 16-game season and then moving into a 17-game season, I can say the added game plus the added game in the playoffs, or the added week in the playoffs, it definitely gets to you a little bit. I know it's just one extra game, and I know the fans are like, it's just one extra game, but it's something about continuing, especially when you have you have 3 preseason games and you go right into the season. Usually you can rest, your starters, towards the end of the preseason and get them ready for the season, plus the bye week and a lot of things like that. But for me, that extra game plays a lot into the season. Obviously, going into the playoffs, having to play, 4 or 5 games to get to the championship also sucks. So you want to be the team that peaks at the right time. Obviously, we still have our quarterback, and you can't do anything without a quarterback. So that's the good thing we have right now. I think, going into next week, if we can, like we said earlier in the show, if we can rest our starters as much as possible going into the playoffs, knowing that either way you roll the dice, we have to play away at some, away somewhere where it's going to be cold, and we got to prepare for that mentally. let's get prepared for that mentally. Let's get our team healthy so we can give ourselves the best shot possible to go out there and win the game. So for me, I think that's the most important thing going into the playoffs, especially when you already know that you have you're already in the tournament. Let's make sure we go in the tournament with all our ammunition, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious, DMAC, too. There's this conversation about where we play, what type of team we are. I loved it coming into the game when McVay said it, because he's right. Like, this is a team that should be built to play anywhere against anybody. But does it feel like, based on what we've seen and based on, the status of the offensive line, and if Blake Corum might be out a week, and if Devontae Adams isn't 100%, like, does that change at all your confidence in terms of this being a team that can win anywhere against anybody? And would you prefer to play in a warm environment like everyone assumes? Or is there part of you that says, hey, maybe the Rams need to muck it up and play some gross games, and maybe that's the best chance to win right now?
I think my confidence is for sure taking a hit. And anyone says that otherwise is lying, man. Or they're just straight up delusional, right? But do I think that this team, when everything's clicking and they're fully healthy, could be any team? I certainly do. I think the answer to your question, though, would you prefer the Bucs or the Panthers, or something I threw out in the previous segment, hey, might as well just try to slay the dragon, the Eagles, right off the bat, is how quickly can the guys that come back round into form? We saw Kella Witherspoon come back a couple weeks ago. That first game back was really rough, right? So can you expect Quinn Lake to come in right out of the gates and be that guy? What are fair expectations for him? Fair expectations for Devontae Adams? Fair expectations for Alec Jackson and K-Dot? So I think that, let's be honest, even though I do say that, right, the Eagles, I think that would just be a way to spin the positive after the fact. Let me make something very clear right here. I want the 5 seed, and I want the Bucs or the Panthers, because I know that for the Rams to lose to both those teams, that it would be self-inflicted. It would be turnovers from Matthew Stafford, fumbles from Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, missed tackles, missed plays on the defensive side, bad penalties, drops, missed field goals, bad punts. We would be I guarantee that we would be talking about what the Rams didn't do as opposed to what the Panthers or Bucs did do. Whereas if you play the Eagles, you might just say, hey, man, tip your cap, man. That run from Barkley, that was crazy, man. Jalen Carter threw him to the turf. Man, that's a good football player right there, that kind of stuff, right? So I think that's kind of where I'm at on that. I want the 5 seed because, like Brock said earlier, I love what he said about there's like different light bulbs in the lights in the playoffs that they use, right? It just feels brighter, just feels different. And just getting one singular playoff win under your belt, we wouldn't talk about the Seahawks game anymore, unless, of course, they lose the next one or have a crumble, right? But we would really just focus on what's ahead of them. And the cool thing about this, the cool thing about the NFL is this, is it's not like Major League Baseball. It's not like the NBA. It's not like hockey, right? The Super Bowl is a neutral site game, right? You just got to get there. There's no such thing as, hey, we had home field advantage in the Super Bowl, right? Of course, the 49ers could play at Levi's, which that's not happening. We know that, okay? But let's be honest. Like there is no like that is it's the sport where you have to just take care of your business. And who knows, could we see some form of an upset that could get the Rams a home game? I mean, we saw in 2021, you start at home against the Cardinals, you win that game, then you go play the Bucs, and then you end to play the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So things can happen like that. But this is a team that, look, make no mistake about it, even some of their home games, which I think this has been probably, right up there with the best home years for the Rams as far as how the crowd has showed up and shown out. But it's a team where it's not like they're feeling like they're up in Seattle with the Rams fans, right? This is a process, right? You get a lot of opposing fans. So I think this is a team that is almost trained themselves to kind of be almost immune to the elements and crowd noise and things like that. And look, tough. If you're a Super Bowl winning team, if you are a team that is a Super Bowl winning team, and that's how we're going to judge the season's success or failure, right? If they get to or win the Super Bowl. If you can't go into a tough environment and find a way to win, you weren't a Super Bowl team in the first place. But I will say this, 2020, right? Exactly, right? 2020, I will say this, though. That Rams team had the number 1 defense in the NFL, right? And that team ended up losing to that 0-13 Jets team. You had some really bad. You lost that Saints team, right? Or they just had some bad losses, and you could have been a 3 seed, a 1 through 3 seed. Instead, you put yourself in a tough spot where you had to go to Green Bay and Lambeau, and you lost that one when you could have played the Saints. So there are always those scenarios where, in hindsight, you're saying, okay, I want the best matchup. But I think what this team needs is they need matchups that mean something, and they need to get the juices flowing again, and they need to be playing meaningful football. And tonight should have been meaningful football, but it didn't feel like that for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, mic drop, period, right? Like facts, big facts. I mean, my only question, last thing for you guys both is, we look at Corum leave this game. We see the offensive line out. We talked about Q Lake hopefully coming back, Devontae coming back. What? I don't know. In a perfect scenario, everyone comes back healthy. D-Mac, like you said, it takes some guys more time than others to get back in the groove of things. What's the bigger concern or the more important thing? To have a healthy offensive line, a healthier and more competitive secondary with the Kello Witherspoon, Quentin Lake. Like, which one is more important? Because you can make the argument that even if Q Lake and Kello Witherspoon come back, this secondary is still a big question mark. I saw someone in here saying, Les Snead blew the trade deadline. Hey, don't forget half the season ago when we were wondering why the Rams didn't make a big move for a corner, why they didn't add some more depth at the linebacker position, things like that. Hey, right now is one of those moments where you might be looking back at that. But all that being said, what's more important? I know Greg in here saying all of the above, of course, but there's not there's a scenario where we don't get all of the above back. Offensive line or secondary, what do the Rams need more? Not to win a game or two, but to have a Super Bowl run. Big Brock, we'll go with you.
I'm going to say O-line. I think it always starts off in the trenches. I feel like if we can protect Matthew Stafford, keep him upright, he can hit the receivers. He has the confidence to sit in the pocket and, make those throws that he's so known for, the no looks and things like that. If he's comfortable in the pocket and, he doesn't have, happy feet and he's, looking for check downs and things of that nature, I feel like we can go a long way, to be honest with you. I feel like we can manage with our defense. Our defense already is a bend, don't break type of defense. Once we get in the red zone, get closer to the opponent's end zone, we start to tighten up. So for me, if we have an O-line, I think that definitely gives us the advantage as far as moving forward throughout this Super Bowl run, because it helps our quarterback, allows our quarterback to be more comfortable and run the offense like he needs to run it.
Yeah, as much as I would love to disagree just for good TV and all that kind of stuff, I have to agree 100% with Brock, because this team can outscore opponents. I mean, we saw against the Lions 41-34, right? You can mitigate some of those defensive deficiencies by just sheer explosive offense. And we know if you give Matthew Stafford time, he's going to carve. And tonight was his best night. He's not perfect. And he's kind of maybe showing some signs that maybe he needs a day off, or at least a half off, or whatever it may be. But I still think that he throws it and spins it with the best of them when you give him time. And I think that also opening up the running game. I mean, when you have Kevin Dotson in this style of run game with Blake Corum and this is a great night for Kyren Williams, man. He was cooking. We haven't really talked about him, and it's obvious after a loss like this. But when you can run the football, it helps your defense, right? It helps with ball control. Right. It limits how much time they're on the field. So I think, yes, it's a deficiency. There's no doubt about it as far as the secondary, but it's something you can scheme to a degree with that bend but don't break style. And I do think that the safeties and kind of guys kind of having certain moments, it's definitely, you're not going to look the way the NFL is set up with the salary cap, with the draft. You're not going to have strengths at every single position group. That's just not how it works. You can't pay every position, and even when you draft right, it penalizes you because you ultimately have to pay them. Right? I'll say that for a different show, but I agree with you. I mean, give me a healthy and thriving offensive line, and this is going to be a very difficult Rams team to shut down. And I think that Brock said earlier, getting Devontae back, what that means for Puka Nacua as well. Ferguson, I think there's some weapons in there. Colby Parkinson at times. All right, but now, Gavin, the floor is yours to talk about what happened in your fantasy football team. Come on, let us have it. Come on, Gavin. This is what we've been waiting for. Come on, baby.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. The funny thing is, I was about to say I have another question for you guys, and I was going to say I'm asking a lot of questions today because I'm just not in the mood to like talk a ton. Like, and I say that after I've been yapping for an hour, but I don't know. I'm in a big question mood. We'll look, guys. Moral of the story is I lost my darn fantasy championship, which is one thing, but to lose $1,500 on a Puka Nacua touchdown when you don't even win the game, Rams, infuriating. I lost by 0.4 points. Puka, he scores the touchdown, which I'm happy about because I care way more about the Rams than my stupid fantasy team, even though that win pays my rent for a month. I'm willing to have to pay a rent for a month out of pocket instead of on a fantasy win if the Rams win the darn game, but they don't even win the day-in game. Anyways. Last question, because I don't know how I didn't ask this throughout this show, and we got Big Brock of all people.
What's your fantasy team name? The chat wants to know.
I don't know. I'm in one of those leagues. I'm on Sleeper. I'm with my
default one.
No, it's where we change our name like all throughout the season. You can nickname your players throughout the season. I think right now it's CMC and injured bums because my team was injured and terrible outside of CMC, and even with his performance last night, I lost. But anyways, because I did have a couple people in here saying we don't care about your fantasy team. Talk about the Rams. I know.
Try to tell
I haven't asked the question yet. Big Brock and D-Mac, this Rams pass rush, this Rams D-line, real quick before we end, because we talk about the secondary being such a weakness, and it is. But the way you mitigate that weakness is by having one of the elite pass rushes in the NFL, which the Rams have had for 2 seasons now. And yet people in here, outside of people raging about Puka, and we get it. He's had a horrible week last week. We're well past that. The number one thing people are raging about in the comments is this pass rush is not getting home. And you heard Joe Buck and Troy Aikman talk about it on the broadcast. Jared Verse, he makes it to a second Pro Bowl despite the stats not being there. Sean McVay is reminding Jared Verse 24/7 how he's such an elite player despite the lack of, statistical production, multiple Pro Bowlers on the defensive line. But another game where you're playing against the statue of all statues in Kirk Cousins. And yes, they ran the ball a ton. Yes, they don't throw many deep passes in this game, but 0 sacks, essentially no pressures, coming off a week against the Seahawks where you could have asked more for your D-line. Is it time we start asking questions about this? Not the D-line in terms of the players and the talent and everything, but why are they not getting home, Big Brock? Defensive line specialist, legend. Why are we not getting home? And then we'll end this show.
All right. So for me, when you put it like that, and obviously I played D-line for a long time, I see them getting a little fatigued, especially when you're playing against 3 turnovers. The other team doesn't have to really go out there and, make exciting, plays and big plays. They can just control the clock. I mean, obviously what I said earlier in the season is that's a way you defeat the Rams is you take the clock, you take the time of possession, you run the ball. Obviously, you said early in the show the Atlanta Falcons were going to run the ball no matter if they got 9 yards or they got 1 yard. They were going to run the ball. And I think that's the way that a lot of people have attacked us is just run the ball no matter what. Let the Rams make mistakes. If they make a mistake, let's just continue to pound on this defense because after a while, it's just like the rock, man. They say you just continue to pound that rock and it eventually it'll bust. And that's usually what I see from this Rams team throughout the season is if you get somebody who's just, throwing the checkdowns, getting 3 or 4 yards, staying, ahead of the chains and just getting those first downs and just grinding out the game. For some reason, that is our weakness. That is our kryptonite. We can't play like that, especially if we're not getting turnovers and sacks and things like that. It's tough for our defense to maintain that. So if it's up to me, it's if we can play mistake-free football, not putting the defense out there a ton, extra plays where we got 3 interceptions that allows more drives, 10 play drives or whatever, that allows it, your team to wear down a little bit. So for me, it's, getting the teams, behind the sticks, getting in those long down situations, 3rd and longs, 2nd and longs. Usually you'll see our defense start to eat. But if we're playing, with the other team and they're ahead of the sticks, they're grinding out this game. Usually for us, it just wears our defense out, and that's been a common thing throughout this whole season.
Fair enough. The D-line
They
legend expert himself said it. Go ahead.
That's the key. That's the number. I mean, that is the biggest key for the Rams defense. The number one question is how do you find a way to generate the press that you saw early in the season? And if you got to get creative, I mean, they're not a team that blitzes a ton, and you kind of rely on guys winning their one-on-one matchups and just kind of overpowering guys. And we see Jared Verse kind of with that bull rush. We see the strength that he possesses, and I think teams are kind of scheming too. I mean, it almost started with the Mac Jones game against the Rams. Hey, look, if they're going to get in and collapse the pocket, quarterbacks are to get that football out one way or the other. We saw it from Kirk Cousins tonight, and there were some hits in there for sure. But yeah, I mean, what's going to get this Rams team really, really going is getting pressure and stopping the run and just kind of living with them completing passes for sure, but limiting those explosive plays. But yeah, that's I guarantee what's keeping Chris Shula up at night. We have not called Byron Young's name as much as we need to. We have not called Jared Verse's name, quite frankly, outside of that incredible. By the way, he was going like 20 miles per hour. You see that at NFL Next Gen stats for a dude that size. That's extremely impressive. But I mean, Kobe Turner had the game of his life against the Seahawks. But all in all, as a group, you need a better showing from them. And I think that Brock kind of, in my eyes, I think that that's what it is. I think that this group, they need to kind of get that playoff second wind, right? And I think that you see that with a lot of guys. It feels like, hey, man, like, let's just dig extra deep because we know everything's on the line. And I guarantee this team does not want to hear about that Seahawks loss for the rest of their lives and how this is going to be a what could have been Rams season. So I think that's going to motivate these guys to really just, I mean, at least I hope it is. And I think that these are high character guys that really, really care. At least Aaron Donald said they do. So I trust him and I trust this Rams team. But yeah, I mean, that's something we're going to have to look at a deeper level is what is Chris Shula saying about it? How's the scheme looking? And why aren't they getting home as much as we saw earlier in the season?
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, as much as, there's comments like these, and rightfully so, I get it. It's calling the Rams the Achilles heel and everything. I get it. And we're going to be critical of the D-line for not getting enough of a pass rush and everything. At the end of the day, this is a Rams team that they gave up 126 yards through the air despite having, a secondary that's usually the problem. You take away even the 34 yards to Bijan, and you gave up less than 100 yards passing to receivers and tight ends in this game. Like you did, I said 27 at the beginning of the show. It was actually 20 points. You threw a pick six. And, oh, by the way, not the defense, but the special teams created 7 of their own with the blocked field goal run all the way back, right? So not to also forget Stafford threw what could have been another pick six, and the guy steps out of bounds, right? So the defense gets off the field and doesn't allow any points. So, yes, not great. Yes, the defense, the pass rush, it could all be better. But if you're looking for any sort of silver lining, it's that the secondary wasn't as bad as it normally is. This team created some points through special teams, and healthy, this team can still be the best team in the NFL. So with all that being said, we're going to wrap this one up. Shout out to everybody in here. I did see one person in here saying, hey, if I lost 1,500 bones, I'd be salty too. So thank you to that one person who is, consoling me and understanding.
Somebody cares
why I am.
Then they should give you a $1,500 super chat. Come on.
Right.
Yeah, like those those Twitch streamers, right? Like don't get me started on the one that has our receiver and our team in this mess in the first. No, I'm not getting into that. But all right, have a great rest of your Monday night. Have a great rest of your week. And we'll come back in 2026. Our next show will be in 2026. So happy New Year, everybody. And in 2026, we're still going to watch the Rams lift the Lombardi Trophy, and that's all that matters. So whose house? Rams house. Who squad? Locked on Rams squad, the Mob Squad, signing off. We'll see you next time. Go Rams.